are now at the film that a lot of fans consider to be the worst, the weakest of this franchise. Scream 3 shows Sidney Prescott attempting to be at her most isolated yet. She lives in the middle of nowhere and works for a job where no one knows who she really is. However, she is drawn back into an investigation when cast members of Stab 3 start dying, and this new killer structures a game centered on film conclusion chapters, one with the secrets of Sidney's family as the subject. And before I start out, I just want to point out that, in case this review seems to lean more into the negative side of things, I want to say that there are things that I do like about this film, and I think it's on the lower side of the positive end. But overall, it's just a mixed bag for me, unfortunately. As far as the good, I think that this film still has a fair enough understanding of what we really enjoy out of these films, and that's the character work. And in the case of Sydney, each film has shown how the events of her life have affected her more and more. And it makes sense that at this stage in her life, she's just pretty much cutting off from society. She's living in a house that has a lot of locks on it. That so much has happened that she really can't deal with anything more. I also thought that the plot point of her working for a women's counseling service was an interesting idea. It makes sense that with the stuff that she's gone through in her life, she would work for a company like that, helping other women that maybe are in the same or similar situations as her. As the plot unfolds, there's more that's uncovered about her mother, and the film still keeps the emotions of her relationship with her mother.
I always thought I had the perfect mom, perfect family. Until I found out I was wrong.
And touching on those things that are uncovered about Sydney's mom, there's quite a bit of commentary that Wes Craven gives to this film on Hollywood, how dirty of a business it really is, how women were and are still kind of preyed upon in that field. And adding on to that, there's actually this character that, as a director, he wants to make this prestigious film, but before he can do that, the studio wants him to make a horror movie. And I just feel like that was Wes Craven adding more of his story into a film. Because as I understand from things I've heard, when he was starting out in his career, I guess he was forced to make some pornos. So I guess that was just kind of his way of venting through that, I guess. The meta humor here is certainly not as sharp as the first two films, but there are still some pretty funny scenes. I love the Carrie Fisher cameo. I get a really good laugh out of it every single time.
But you look just...
Like her? I've been hearing it all my life.
It's uncanny.
I was up for Princess Leia. I was this close. So who gets it? The one who sleeps with George Lucas.
I thought that the Scary Movies 101 tape viewing scene was kind of hilarious. Of course, it's Randy in the recording. And Randy is a character that I believe was taken from us too soon in this franchise. And I didn't want to see him die in Scream 2, but I enjoyed that in Scream 3 we got at least this final piece to him. And that leads me to one of my favorite things of the entire movie, and that's Ghostface and the tricks that they do with the voice box this time. Ghostface can now have this voice box and sound like any person. It was an original idea for sure, and like always in this franchise, whenever there's a phone call, you already know that something's up, but there's an added level of tension because in this film there's quite a few scenes where people are talking on the phone, and sometimes it's someone someone actually talking to the person they need to talk to, and it's not just Ghostface on the other side of the phone. But there are moments, because of this new tech, that it just makes every phone call just suspect. If I was going to make it a general, analogy for this film, it would be that it's like that mediocre episode in a TV show that you love. You still get a certain level of fun watching it. You love the characters, you really enjoy the concept of the show, and that's what gets you through a duller experience. That's how I feel about this film. Which brings me to the bad, and this is clearly a movie that you could categorize as diminishing returns, especially coming off of Scream 2. And one of the things being the side characters, which are just meh. You just get to hang out with this cast from Stab 3, and they're okay. There's a subplot where the actress that's playing Gale Weathers in Stab 3 is spending a lot of time with the actual Gale Weathers. And in concept, that's interesting. But the way that they pulled it off, I don't know, I just didn't find funny. You get Patrick Dempsey thrown into the mix, and there are scenes of him where he's, I guess, trying to connect with Sydney, but there's really nothing much to him either. And it's just unfortunate for me to say with a Scream film that the side characters were just lacking. But the other two films weren't like that. The other two films, these characters stood out. This film also has less of a focus on Sydney. It's more focused on Gale and Dewey in this investigation. And the story spends so much time on them that they're kind of forced to carry a lot of the film, and it doesn't work that well. I love these characters. These two characters having a lot more screen time might have worked better, and that might be great. The problem with Scream 3 is that it rehashes their conflict from Scream 2. The beginning is almost like the ending of Scream 2 never happened. Dewey is once again mad at Gale that she's kind of self-absorbed. You get a scene at the beginning where she's giving a talk at like a college or something.
So you're saying that we should be ready to go out and cut each other's throats because that's what you did?
Metaphorically, yes.
Well, tell me, Miss Weathers, was it worth it?
She went on this arc before. Like, what are we doing here? And also when you're focusing on this main storyline of Dewey and Gale going around with the crew members of Stab 3, there's this detective angle where they're having to look at pictures, they're going to different locations to get files, trying to figure out this case, and that was something that was always in the background with the other two Scream films. Here it just doesn't fit, because Scream is more meta comedy horror, like whodunit, and this is adding all these procedural plot points. It just didn't mix. I would stretch to say that out of the entire franchise, Scream 3 is the one that actually feels the less like Scream. And it's even more unfortunate when you get to the horror tension side of things. And that's also pretty lacking. Like, the first two films have a lot of scenes that just stand out, and this one doesn't really have that many. Though I will say there's that one scene where it demonstrates Dewey's just dumb luck, where Ghostface throws a knife at him, and he's fortunate enough to get hit in the head with the handle of the knife. And that was a funny scene. Just as a whole, the movie is just meh. And I heard, like, this wasn't the initial script for this film. Then the initial script, there was some controversy involving a school shooting, and they eventually, like, changed it to what we actually got. And fun fact, like, the script for that movie went to a TV show with Kevin Bacon, I think, called Following, which even that didn't get that good of reviews. But I'm wondering, like, what would have that original script have looked like? And to top things off, you get this really strange plot twist where the killer of the movie is this film director that I talked about. And it's revealed that he's Sydney's brother. Where did this come from? And I guess it's supposed to, like, recontextualize everything that happened with Billy Loomis, and it's a plot point that harkens back to Halloween 2, where we got the reveal that Michael Myers is the brother of Laurie Strode. And even with that franchise, that's, like, the main example of, like, a sibling reveal in a horror film. Like, even that one didn't stick the landing with it. Like, I've seen the majority of the Halloween films. I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube about this series, and I have yet to see a person that thinks the Laurie Strode, Michael Myers sibling reveal was a great choice. And it would be fine in Scream 3 if they did that, if it was meant to be funny. But unfortunately, I can't tell if Wes Craven was going for comedy or seriousness with this, which is unfortunate because, you know, When he's making fun of something, you can tell he's making fun of something. The fact that it's a twist that's so out of the blue, that could have been a funny scene. But as far as I was concerned, when I was watching it, it was played pretty seriously. And there's this end scene where Sydney and this guy, before he dies, they like join hands. Sydney's like sad for some reason. I guess the idea that now she's losing someone of her family that she could have known, but now she's never going to be able to know. And I don't know, I just felt nothing with that. In the end, like that plot twist was really pointless. I will say that this film has a pretty solid ending, though. Dewey actually proposes to Gail, and which was nice to see. Their relationship actually going somewhere this time. But what's even better is like the final sequence of this film where Sydney goes back to her house and she leaves the door open, which she usually like puts a lot of locks on. And she's just standing there looking at that open door, having defeated the villain. She just kind of leaves it open. And I like that growth, that now she's not as scared as she was before. And then the film just cuts to black right there. It was a pretty good ending. It could have been even more satisfying if the film that it was in was slightly better. Like I said, it might seem like I'm railing on this film, that I'm really hammering down the issues, but it's just that this time there was a lot of stuff that was noticeable that just didn't quite work. But overall, it was definitely watchable. Like I said, characters that I love, a concept that I really enjoy. You know, there were still some fun moments here and there. And here's what I'll end on, that, of course, I think I can safely say that this is the worst of the franchise. But actually, if Scream 3 is the worst of your franchise, you're actually doing really well. It's among other films that I really enjoy, and watching them, I'll probably be in the mood to watch this one from time to time. A mixed bag, but because it's among a lot of these other films that I love, I can lean a bit more positive with it. I'm going to give Scream 3 a B-. Like I said in the Scream 2 review, that film was divisive. And I think that most people agree that this film is the weakest entry. But are there actually some of you that really enjoy this film, that think it maybe is underappreciated? If you have that opinion, actually leave it down below in the comment section. I'll be interested to hear that. If you haven't seen my other reviews for Scream and Scream 2, those are in a playlist that I'll link somewhere around here. Stay tuned for my review of Scream 4, and I'll see you guys later.